Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on how to trace call issues on the IPCallBox SIP gateways and the DAS2 protocol converter. So the first thing to do is to open the IPCallBox management station which you have previously installed from the included CD-ROM. Tracing on the IPCallBox products is done through a telnet session to the units, and you can access the IPCallBox units using the telnet client direct from the Debug Unit Console menu in the management station. First select the unit and then go to the Debug Options menu and open Unit Console. Now as you can see, this actually starts the Hyperterminal Telnet client, but this is not really a very good telnet client, so let's look how to set up a much better one. We recommend that you install a good telnet client that allows logging to a file and has a reasonable scrollback facility to make life easier. A free telnet client called TerraTerm Pro is included on the CD-ROM, but it can also be downloaded from the internet for free. To use TerraTerm Pro, copy the entire directory from the CD-ROM, and it's underneath Trace Tools, into your Program Files directory on your PC or laptop. Okay, having done that, we now need to tell the management station to use TerraTerm Pro when you open a telnet session. This is done from the Options Configure Telnet Client menu dialog. Find the TerraTerm Pro menu under Program Files and select the ttermpro.exe file. Now, with the unit selected, when we go to the Debug menu and select Unit Console, we get a much better window with the facility to log to file, and it has quite a large scrollback buffer. The login and password for the IPCallBox unit by default is blank and blank, so unless you've set a username and password in your configuration files, you can press return and return to get to the command line. Once you're at the command line, the most important command to remember is out70. This command turns on the basic tracing of messages in both Q931, DAS2 and SIP, so that you can actually see a live trace of the calls as you make them. Okay, so we've set up a telnet session to the unit. We've enabled the tracing using the out70 command. Let's actually log the output of the tracing to a file. So if we go to TerraTerm, and in TerraTerm we go File, Log from the menu, we can save all the output into a file. Let's put it in My Documents and call it testtrace.txt. Okay, so now we're running a trace file, so any output from the IPCallBox unit will be captured to a file. Alright, let's make a test call then. I'm going to call from a PBX attached to an IPCallBox central unit, and hopefully this should actually go across SIP to an ISDN service, or in this case it's actually just an ISDN telephone, and we can answer that call, and then we can hang the call up. Okay, call's ended. Okay, so now you can see we've got a trace, and let's actually just close the call log. So we'll close that file, and let's take a look at that in a text editor. Okay, here we have the log, and as you can see, there's some useful information in terms of the point in time at which the messages were received. And here we have an example of an outgoing call from the PBX hitting the IPCallBox unit. So it's incoming on ISDN PBX 0, that's the interface number. There is only one on a central. We then have the call reference value, which identifies the call within Q931, and this is in fact a Q931 call setup message. It's a speech ALAW, it's channel number 1 exclusive, no choice. Calling line identifier is 01344626985, and the destination line identifier is 122, so that's the called number. And as you can see, the IPCallBox responds, so outgoing on ISDN line with a setup acknowledge. The call then proceeds as an outgoing on SIP invite, and it heads off to this location. That's then responded to with a trying and a ringing, and eventually the call is connected. and we receive an incoming on SIP 200 OK, and then we respond back to the PBX outgoing on ISDN PBX connect, and the PBX responds back connect acknowledge. Eventually the call is hung up from the SIP terminal, so we get an incoming on SIP BY and an outgoing on SIP response status 200 OK from the IPCallBox unit. And eventually then the call is hung up to the PBX interface with a disconnect followed by release complete. Interestingly enough, here we have a repeated BY from the terminal. Obviously it sent this just before the 200 OK response went back. Because we've already sent back the 200 OK, we go response status call leg transaction does not exist, which is true because we've already seen the BY and we've acknowledged it, so the call has gone. Okay, so there you have it. Basically how to trace and how to log call traces using the IPCallBox Central SIP gateways and the IPCallBox Central DAS2 protocol converter. Okay, thank you very much for your time.